All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Han Shen. I'm the founding managing partner of iFly. Welcome to the 2020 iFly annual conference online. I know has been quite a year for everybody, so I hope you and your families are all safe and healthy. This year, the theme of our conference is serving the underserved demographics in the post-COVID-19 era. So if there's only one word to describe how I feel about the life and business going forward, that word is uncertainty. Now, I love to quote the Professor John Allen Paulus from Pennsylvania, which is uncertainty is the only certainty there is. When we look at the development of vaccine for COVID, that's going to take a while, even though there are promising signs. Then with that, it's still going to take a while to scale production. The US election this year will have also profound impact, no matter who or which side you pick to support. There's definitely tension around the world. Is that going to get better or worse? Or how much worse it's going to get from here? The stock market certainly gets attention every single day. I definitely hope a lot of people in the audience make a few bets a year ago on Zoom, as we are on Zoom now. But also, is this going to peak? At what point? I think only time will be able to tell. For early stage of VC investment, on the one hand, there's still a lot of money coming in, but on the other hand, the allocation of money for early stage has been gradually going down. And for late stage pre-IPO investment, it sounds lucrative to go after that market. But at the same time, we have seen a mix of stock performance as some companies gone public. So really, there's so much uncertainty that we have to face in today's environment. But also to quote the second half of Professor Paulus, he also said, just knowing how to live within security is the only security. So here at iFly, it's something we cannot agree with more. And to be actually optimistic about what's going to happen in the next few years, let's also look at history. Not a long time ago, back in the 2008 to 2010, during those financial crisis time period, no matter how hard it was for everybody, business-wise or individually, those time periods still witnessed the birth of super successful and amazing companies that became household brand names later. So here at iFly, what we're still gonna double down on is to back the outbreakers and top performers to accelerate the trillion-dollar shift in consumer spending across North America, and particularly with a focus on the underserved demographics. So even though the US consumer spending on the top line is growing at the rate of GDP, so every quarter, even during Q2 with the impact of COVID, we're still talking about $13 trillion that particular quarter. That's massive. But there are also lots of these underserved demographics when you look into the details, and each of them carry unique and still substantial opportunities. But the way how the mainstream business slice and dice the segmentation of the consumer is not necessarily tailored to these underserved demographics. And for example, what we at iFly pay a lot of attention to is the ethnic minorities from Asian, Hispanic, African Americans, and so on, and also the immigrants, then those underbanked, and also residents in the remote communities. Let's just dig into the numbers for the ethnic minorities in this country. So Asian, Hispanic, and Black add up to more than 100 million people. That's a huge size. And also altogether, that represents a massive trillion-dollar scale kind of consumer spending, and still growing really, really fast. When we look at specific category, which is grocery, that is being hugely underserved in today's environment. Before a company called We came to play. On the one hand, that's a $60 billion annual spend on Asian grocery per year. On the other hand, all the brick and mortar shops had not really evolved to serve the customers in the century. And we're going to have the CEO and founder of We come to talk to us to share his experience later this afternoon. And we certainly see more cross-cultural influence from Asian, Hispanic, and so on and so forth. So from Crazy Rich Asian to Parasite that just won the Academy Award, to the Korean boys band BTS that showed on the Saturday Night Live, then this Japanese studio Ghibli that now is being streamed on HBO Max. And last but not least, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the book The Three-Body Problem, which is a sci-fi series with 3 books by the Chinese writer Cixin Liu. I just heard the news the day before yesterday. They are going to start production of the series on Netflix, which I'm really excited. I even heard that President Obama is a big fan of a three-body problem, and his quote is, compared with all the challenges that he had to face with crisis, he loved the three-body problem. Excuse me, the three-body problem is his favorite because those problems with the Congress seem to be much more petty. And also, beyond Asian, Hispanic, let's also turn our attention to these remote communities in the United States. We have about 100 million people staying away from the populated areas. When many of us enjoy the free delivery by Amazon Prime same day or next day, there's still a lot of people out there who have a hard time accessing the same kind of merchandise at the same kind of cost structure that we have benefited from. And in that case, we're not talking about the last mile delivery problem. Often the issue is the last 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles, even longer distance. So the cost per delivery per pound is actually much higher than what we have here in the Bay Area, New York, or other metropolitan areas. And to address this problem, a team at Camp 6 goes after developing a heavy payload autonomous cargo drone to serve those people in the remote communities. And the founder and CEO will also just talk this afternoon to share their development and progress. When we look at the middle class that's rising in the United States and also around the world, the demand for high quality merchandise, brand name or not, also has growing. The cross-border e-commerce represents a $900 billion opportunity. And in this country, we have a team on the East Coast called Yummy Bazaar. Their website is yummybazaar.com. I would definitely shamelessly promote those companies, and you should give it a try. And they are a digital online specialty food store that carry goodies from Europe, Latin American countries, and part of the Asian countries. And they ship across the United States. At the same time, there's another portfolio company called BoardX Lab. They help American and European merchants sell to international shoppers overseas. People from the United States can actually order goodies from Europe from those department stores. And people from Asia, particularly in China, can also order directly from Neiman Marcus, Bloomingdale part of the world. And the president of a strategic partnership of BoardX Lab will also present this afternoon. And going forward for our future investment, there are a few particular areas I just wanted to give a few examples about what we are excited about. One example is actually the restaurant chain business. On the one hand, we observe the massive success of burgers, pizzas, Mexicans. But as you look into the numbers, the top 3 players for each of those categories actually account for quite a big chunk of the market share in terms of location. But by comparison, the top 3 Asian restaurant chain, including Panda, Payway, and PF Chang's, only account for about 5.6%. So that really means there's so much more to do to uplift the consumer experience, to find ways to scale the business faster, quicker. So we are excited to look for opportunities to partner with entrepreneurs. And also in terms of the underbanked opportunities, and there are over 60 million adults in this country that are classified as either underbanked or unbanked. And that could fall over all kinds of ethnic minorities or the mainstream, or at the same time, there's a big chunk of the population that is immigrant. And when we interview consumers in the space, there are a variety of underbanked demographics that are not being recognized by the mainstream banks. For example, a small independent contractor in Pennsylvania actually has a pretty good income every year to support the whole family, but still he's being charged by his bank for all kinds of crazy fees for overdraft, ATM drawer, minimum balance, that sort of things. So we know there gotta be opportunity to make their life better and easier. So we are in Silicon Valley. We are immersed in an ocean of tech innovation. But from our perspective, tech alone is not enough. Often we see the opportunity in terms of transformation that benefit from the combination of both tech enablement and market insights. As much as we love to find ways to deploy data, AI, automation, robotics to help entrepreneurs, at the same time, we think it's equally important to gain insights in the market, whether it's about underserved demographics with cross-cultural influence, international access, those people who live in the remote communities, or generational shift from Gen X to Gen Y to Gen Z. The combination of these drivers from market and technology get us to really look across the value chain of commerce, all the way from supply chain logistics to e-commerce retail, because you cannot really look at e-commerce opportunities without understanding retail or supply chain. And also in the reverse direction, by understanding supply chain retail logistics better, it gives us a very unique angle to understand better what's next for the innovation in food, beverage, CPG, or even payment. So when it comes to execution, this chart really shows us how we think about at iFly, we invest and work with entrepreneurs. I think our job is to find opportunities in the non-obvious before most other people recognize. Because in most cases, entrepreneurs, especially successful companies, did not start as a company that simply chased those buzzwords. And in fact, they could be in a quiet period for a while. And it's really our job to identify these hidden gems. And so our approach is highly thesis driven. We want to do a lot of research in a given sector to understand what's in it for entrepreneurs and for our investment and for us to collaborate with each other. Not only we have to understand why the opportunity is exciting to us, we want to make sure we deserve to be on the cap table when we give a term sheet to a company's founders. When we come to invest, we're happy and comfortable to either lead or follow, but we really wanted to build a concentrated portfolio by a small number of companies such that we are able to really dedicate lots of resource and energy to work with entrepreneurs to help them. That's the kind of impactful value add we wanted to deliver. And that's the part of the reputation we want to build over time. So over the past couple of years, we certainly saw a lot of companies coming to talk to us about opportunities to partnership. But really, we have only made not even 10 investments. For Fund 1, across 3 years, we did 7 investments. For Fund 2 that just started up and running, we made 2 investments in Q2 during the COVID. And I'm not saying that entrepreneurs in the audience should walk away because we only made such a few investments. But there are 2 things I wanted to mention. One, as much as we like to find ways to work with entrepreneurs, we recognize sometimes it could be an initial fit. So in many cases, we try to still set up goodwill by introducing founders to our friends and allies, whether for investment or other kinds of partnership. And one anecdote that I found that was amazing was back 4 or 5 years ago, when I was still at my previous fund, I turned down a founder in Palo Alto who was building a very interesting company, but it really wasn't the fit at the time. So I turned him down, but made 2 follow-on introductions to other friends who turned out to be helpful in some way. And then guess what? About a year ago, the same founder introduced me to his friend who is running the family office investment on the East Coast. So that family office turned out to be an investor of our second fund. So that really is about the goodwill we want to build with the friends and allies in the ecosystem. At the same time, when we build a small concentrated portfolio, we want to make sure we are just a call away when founders want to reach us, whether it's a topic of really important strategic value or something sometimes just people wanted to have us as a sounding board. And this afternoon, we're going to have Jeff Unzi from BorderX Lab, Clement from Camp 6, Larry Liu from SafeWe to talk about their company's development experience. And also we're going to have Joe Lonsdale, co-founder of Palantir, founding partner of Formation 8 and AVC, to join me for a fireside chat. And also we are very glad to have Pankaj Shah, our advisor at iFly, who is also an angel investor, to moderate the talk for the rest of the afternoon. So at this point, our fund has made pretty good progress because of those founders. Some of them already reached a Series B or Series C stage. I'm not going to steal the soundbite, so I'll leave to the founders to talk about. our current net IRR for all the aggregate capital is 79% and 5.2x TVPI, which ranks us pretty high out of the 2016 vintage funds for US venture capital. But at the same time, we are also very ESG conscious. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. And since we made an investment in our portfolio companies, collectively, they have created more than 500 jobs. And in We's case, as the net distance saving by using We's delivery rather than having some individual walk all the way or drive all the way to a grocery store to pick and purchase is actually a net saving of the CO2 emission. Every day, they are helping reduce CO2 emission by at least 25 tons. And also at the same time, 100% of the founders we work with had an international experience. So that really gives us some unique angle and insights when we think about opportunities and the way how they even help themselves with one another to build a shared journey together. And this is a snapshot of the team. Whenever I use the word I apologize, I really mean we. iFly is a startup, so I'm glad to work with a bunch of awesome people. Some people here listed are full-time, some others are part-time or advisors. And in terms of our LPs, some of them are just incredibly successful tech entrepreneurs. They are no longer running their business firsthand. But together, those individual LPs build a market cap of more than $900 billion worth of companies already. They still have a lot of insights, expertise, and their network of knowledge and help that we constantly wanted to bring to our founders and friends in the network. So I want to thank those investors, thank all of you for coming, and thanks the team. So with that, we are probably running out of time for my opening remark to answer any questions. But if there's any question, feel free to shoot to me. I'll try to send it back my answers in private.